Welcome everyone to the first and of many podcasts of the Yoke. It's the Yoke podcast. My name is Doug and this is Brandon, and we also have Cody that's going to be part of the crew here. You'll meet him on the next episode. Today we're going to be talking about just our testimonies and how God impacted our life. That's kind of what we're basing this podcast over, is testimonies and how He has changed us from where we were to where we are now. So, Brandon, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, go ahead, sir, and the stage is yours, my friend.
Right, all right. Well, I hope this video finds y'all well. I'll go ahead and just start off here. My name is Brandon Martin. I'm 38 years old. A little short version of my testimony here. I was born in Washington, D.C., raised in a fairly small town in Maryland, to a family with a long line of alcoholism. So, in my earlier years, my childhood, normal, like any other kid. We had go-karts, dirt bikes, played outside and, even past streetlights, when they came on. But me and my older brother, we played a lot of sports. And some of my most special memories, going to the racetrack every Friday night, watching my dad race. It was some just really good memories for me. I couldn't wait to get off school that Friday and jump in the car and take that hour-and-a-half ride. So it was good. So and growing up, I guess around 6, 7 years old, just noticing mom and dad, obviously in any household you can have verbal disagreements, arguments, things like that, but that's when I noticed, sometimes it started turning a little physical, and I guess the way to protect myself was I forgot a lot of it. Mm-hmm. I think that was, in a way, God helped me. Not having that trauma, so, but not getting in, too many details, but at one point, I remember, my dad had one arm of me, my mom had the other, and they were pulling to see who I was going with. So, not memories that a kid should have, but. So they ended up getting a divorce when I was about 10 or 11 years old. Stayed with my dad. He continued to drink, and not too long after that, both of my parents decided to make that decision to turn to drugs. Both of them ended up becoming addicts. And when I was about 14 years old, I left my dad's house, ended up staying 4 or 5 different places, slept on the floor for a few years at a friend's house, and worked different jobs. When I was about 14, 15 years old, it was either go to work or, try to figure out a way to stay in school. And, growing up, school wasn't necessarily number one on my list, so I ended up dropping out of school and going to work, and that's where the 4 or 5 different jobs come in. And,
What was your first job?
I was changing oil at a gas station.
Okay.
So then went to a tire center and started doing that, and multiple. So it's been So. And I always had a dream to work in NASCAR. Growing up in the racing family, there was a few years when I was younger, my mom raced as well, so I was getting a double dose. So, just ended up with a girlfriend of mine at the time. Ended up moving to North Carolina and stayed for about 6 to 8 months. But during that time, I met a guy. He came in. I worked at JR's outlet in Statesville. Met a guy who worked for a race team and stayed in touch with him for several years. And ended up moving back to Maryland. Continued to live in the world. And one day I talked to him. He said, if you're still interested, 2 weeks, you can come on down here and start working. So, that's what I did. Chasing that dream. So, but that only lasted the season. But after I moved down, I got an apartment by myself and with another girlfriend of the time moved down with me. And, but that didn't last too long. So I ended up moving to another apartment and getting my own place. And through my job, through a coworker, I met my wife. We ended up moving in together, and not long after that, moving in together, I remember sitting in the living room watching. It was by Bill Wise, watching 23 Minutes in Hell. After he was preaching, and I knew right then and there I didn't want nothing to do with that. No parts whatsoever. So there I asked the Lord into my heart, and I'm thankful that He was right there listening to me, waiting on me. It's just been a blessing. From everything that I've gone through in childhood, wish I would have asked Him into my heart before, but like I said, that helps mold you and make you who you are. And, but God took the cuss words right out of my mouth, put a smile on my face that day. I didn't have to try to quit cussing. It was just gone. Like I said, you're a new creation, right? So, I knew it was never going to be the same. Not saying the storms don't continue to come, right? Because the devil was after me more than ever, and I know that the closer you get to God, the more that He's going to attack. So, but shortly after, me and my wife, we knew we were living in sin. We were trying different churches out in the area. We ended up getting married in 2012. In 2015, God blessed us with our first, beautiful little girl. And before, a year and a half later, I knew that I wanted to be something that my kids could look up to me, respect, be happy, be proud of me.
Of course, yeah.
And not only for that, but for myself. Dropping out of school was a thing that always in the back of my mind, wanting to get my diploma. That way, instead of just working jobs, go ahead into a career. So I ended up applying about that February, applying myself and getting enrolled to, start studying to get my GED. But God showed up on that. I was giving myself to that December, and not only did I get my GED, but I graduated a few college courses by that December. So when God's involved and it's in His will, He takes a lot of the issues out of it, and everything, goes smooth most of the time.
Oh yeah.
I'm just very thankful for that. And, so our second beautiful little girl was born in 2017. And she was 2 weeks old. Let's see. So when she was born, that was that was near the time when I graduated that college course, and so I mean that's where we're at now, and you know, God's just He's been so faithful. You know, back then, being Him saving me, and you know, and to where we're at now, you know, there was a little time there where, you know, you have that first, you know, initially you're saved, and you know, you're out knocking on doors and trying to spread His word, and you know, going to church, and it's you know, been wonderful, and you know, but you get a little stagnant, and that's where I've been, you know, for a little bit, but since last year and up to now, you know, just watching Him move and His plan that He has for me, it's been a blessing. So I'm very thankful to be here, you know, diving into His Word, and you know, just takes a whole lot of stress off, and you know, the closer you get to Him, you know, so yeah.
So as you were going through this transition, what was the most impactful thing that other than the movie that made you want to come to Christ?
You know, I think growing up, you know, I've always had that desire to know who He is. Always in the back of my mind, you know. And when you're growing up in this world, you know, I've gone to, you know, as a small child, going with your father, you know, to biker bars, and or having to drive him home, you know, when you're young, you have to figure out how to drive a manual, you know.
Yeah.
So we get them. I mean, so I think just having that desire, you know, there had to have been something more, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm just very, very thankful. And, you know, also I have to recognize my wife too, you know, for her being a willing vessel for Him, and planting little seeds too, and having that desire to want more.
Right.
So
you said that you was in, your father and your mother both were in racing. Is that what you're doing now?
yeah. This is my going fourth year racing. You know, just chasing them dreams, and yeah. So finally, I wanted to race since show and tell, and you know, kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
You know, taking driver's seat and my dad's helmet in, and telling them what I wanted to do.
Oh yeah. So since this is your fourth year, you're starting. How have you been successful? And if so, how did your walk as a Christian in this rubbing is racing world that we all live in, and especially on the track, how did that impact you as a Christian?
So obviously, you know, so I'm competitive, you know, as probably a lot of people at the track are, so it can get pretty heated sometimes, but you know, last year, that's when I won my first race. We ended up winning 3 races last year, and thank God we took the championship home too. So we're just using that as, you know, a way to spread His word. You know, I've got Him on the car. You know, anytime I have opportunity to, you know, tell somebody about Him. You know, staying humble, and just putting Him first. And you know, obviously I have my tests and trials when I want to get into the flesh. You know, but he gets hold of me, and you know, kind of reminds me of who I am, and that old me's gone. You know, so. But it's been a blessing, just a ministry type situation, just making sure I keep Him first, because you know, so me always wanting to race, you know, he showed me that he could make it happen, you know. So not only did he line it up and for me to get my first car, to my trailer, help with my motor. It's taken, there's been multiple people that he has worked through to make it possible and make it happen. Because with everybody being competitive, you have to have a program there to make sure the car's set up right.
Yeah.
And then you gotta be fast overall. So horsepower set up, it's very important, and you gotta be able to drive somewhat. So I believe that he's blessed me with that gift too. But it's been good. It's been a blessing.
So as you go through life, like I was talking about, keeping the racing theme, how has rubbing this racing, how has that affected you in your walk with Jesus?
I think it's growth. Just like in life, we're gonna get our scars, marks, dents. We're gonna spin out, but we're all chasing that finish line, So I want to have a good race, right? So, and it's not getting discouraged when you do spin out, and kind of caution, pump brakes, get ready, and you start back up, keep pushing forward.
Right.
So not let that discourage you and just quit, So it's chasing for a good finish and God's word, and knowing that He's right there with you, and victory is in Him. So
Amen, brother.
that's right. So
all right. So how did your wife play an impact on your walk, or how did your relationship with your wife become different after you accepted Jesus? And was y'all around the same time y'all both accepted, or had she been saved for a while back?
right. So she grew up in going to church. That was in her household, and I think she ended up wandering into the world, but she's always, I guess, she knew who he was, and he was, always pulling her back. But so when we met, we both, worldly, and wanted to go out and hang out and just live in this world. So, but when she started restoring her relationship with him and planting them seeds in me, and I think when he came into my heart, when I asked him into my heart, relationship different right then and there. Instead of us, arguing at each other, obviously it takes God as your foundation, but you're one, right? So you're more of fighting with the enemy. You see the enemy coming.
Yeah.
So instead of fighting each other, us teaming up and fighting him, and that's something that has been changing, here recently too. Just growing, getting the discernment, when you have a disagreement and you see the enemy, he overplays his hand. So getting to see him approach and then instead of going at each other, teaming up and fighting him.
So what is your favorite verse in the Bible and why?
So I'd say, I do Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Him who strengthens me. I know it's a popular verse, but the wonderful thing is it's personal. So you can add that. I know I can add that in about every day, everyday situation. And He's carried me through all of it, allowed me to be here today. So
You said something there that I like. You said it makes it personal. We can have that personal relationship with our creator, the one who actually made us and done everything about it. Put these gray hair in my beard, you know, and
We're getting there.
yeah, he's getting there.
Yeah.
Put that backbone in our bodies, you know, and for me, I'm grateful for that, to be able to have that personal relationship with him. Now, as we are going through your children growing up, and how old are they now?
So we just had one turn 11, and then my youngest turned 8 about a month ago. So.
Okay, so what are you doing in your life to show your daughters how to be more godlike?
So I think it all starts with the foundation, right? So, you know, both of them are homeschooled. My wife stays at home and instills that foundation around God. You know, we want them to have a good base, and then, you know, all your curriculums and things go from that. But we want them to have that personal relationship with God, something they can apply for a lifetime. You know, so I mean, that's reading with them, reading the Bible with them, sitting there talking to them, explaining, you know, how you can apply God in every situation, and also just watching God change their life, their way, you know. I mean, they're already having dreams about it, so what a blessing.
That's pretty
I mean,
neat.
that's like the most important thing that a parent could ask for, in my mind. I mean, that's the most important thing I could ask for, is for them to have a relationship with them. You know, I couldn't imagine having to worry, you know, if they didn't know him.
Yeah.
You know, so.
I know I see you guys show up each Sunday that y'all are here. It's your wife is always smiling, the kids are always having a good time and smiling as well. They look up to you and they see this whenever I see it. They see a man who is going out and doing what God's called him to do, and God is working on and growing each and every day. Is there anything else that you'd like to say, bring up, or mention with just anything?
Well, I'll say that I appreciate you saying that. You know, they are siblings. I can't say that they don't disagree or argue. You know, but they know when they come to God's house that they know what they're here for, and you know, I'm just thankful they have their own personal relationship with Him. So, but we're just like anybody else. You know, we need our daily bread, and it's a walk daily. So,
Amen.
staying in the spiritual and trying to not be in the flesh. And so it's a daily battle. But very blessed, very blessed.
Good deal. All right, guys. That's going to do it for us. If you need any prayer requests or anything like that, if you need anything for prayers, you can go to His Yoke Ministries on Facebook, and someone will be there ready to accept you, to pray for you, or you're on Facebook, His Yoke Ministries. Send us a message there. I'm usually the one doing the evening prayer. We have a guy in the morning, and someone else also does the daily devotions. But guys, this podcast is brought to you by His Yoke Ministries, and we've called it the Yoke, so we can put, or you can see how we have put our burdens upon Christ and what He's brought us through and how He's done that for us. Brandon, thank you for what you've done and what you're doing. We appreciate you being here and part of the team, brother.
Yeah, very blessed to be here, and look forward to speaking with them more, and you know, continue this journey. It's a blessing. Looking forward to it.
All right, guys. Hey, stay tuned for the next episode. We'll have Cody on here, and he'll be giving his testimony. So I'm excited for that. You guys be ready, and We'll see you on the next episode.
See ya.
Love y'all.